I'm Heidi Howe, and this is how I teach contour drawing to my elementary students. Specifically, I do this with my fourth graders. In fourth grade, we spend a lot of time concentrating on drawing. First, I have them draw from photographs, and then later we do still life. Before we do either of those big drawing projects, I start them out with drawing exercises. In the first week, I do gesture drawing, and that's in a different video. And this is what I do in the second week, contour drawing. Now, of course, you're already familiar with contour drawing, but I do want to specify that I am teaching fourth graders for the first time. So this is very much a modified contour drawing. We're not going to be doing blind contour drawing, and I'm not going to require them to keep their pencil down the whole time. What we're really focusing on in this lesson is teaching the kids how to look at shapes and break down a drawing into lines and shapes. Now, I like to start with this video on YouTube. This video isn't mine, but it's a real nice introduction about what we're looking for about drawing the outlines slowly and carefully, looking at the shapes and not putting in a lot of detail. The important thing about this is that I want it to be easy, not stressful, not frustrating. When we actually do the drawings in class, we time them. I usually have it 3 minutes, and I really emphasize that I want them to draw what they see. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're not going to be putting any shading. We're not going to be putting any color. I just really want them to draw what they see and to look carefully. Don't draw what you think something should look like, but what you actually see. As I go through each picture, I'm going to talk to you in this video the same way I talk to the kids, talking them through each drawing. But since they have 3 minutes and they're working, I go very slowly. I don't rattle this all off at once. But I'm just going to tell you what I talk about and what I point out while they're drawing, so you can use these suggestions if you like. I'm going to go through the presentation of the pictures twice. The first time, I'm going to talk through saying what I say to the students. Then the second time, I'm not going to talk at all, and I'm just going to run through the slides just in case you want to use the slides in your own classroom, and then you can just pause it for however long you want for each slide. Okay, so this is going to be our first picture. It's a flower. What's the first shape that you see? That's right, a circle. So let's put that circle in first. And don't make it tiny. Remember, we're gonna draw what we see, and this flower takes up our whole picture. So do a nice big circle in the middle. And then let's look at those petals. Each petal is very long, and there's a lot of them. I don't want you to do short, fat petals. I know there are flowers that have short, fat petals. For this flower, we're going to have long petals stretching all the way out. Now, don't rush. Take your time. Draw as many as you can and make sure they stretch all the way out to the edge. And you can see some of the petals are on top of each other. You can't even see all the petals. So it's okay if your petals are touching and overlapping. What shapes do you see here? There's a lot going on here, but for me, I like to draw the cone first. So the cone comes in two pieces. We've got the top piece, sort of a curvy rectangle, and then the bottom piece, again, is sort of a rectangle. And then we've got a big circle on the top, and you can see the circle doesn't come all the way down to the cone. We've got some squeezy parts hanging out on the edge there. So you can see there's a couple of shapes squished together. Once you get all of your shapes, then you can start looking at lines. What lines, what details do you see in there? We don't put in the details until we've got all of our shapes. Then we can put in the details that help us finish our drawing. Okay, so this is a tricky one. So I go ahead and I let them draw the balloons, give them their 3 minutes. And then I have everybody stop. And I ask them, okay, I want you to look at the balloons on the screen, and I want you to look at your balloons. Are your balloons touching? Now, most of the kids you will find have not drawn their balloons touching. They have drawn 3 separate balloons. So that's when we want to stop and point out. Let's look at these closely. Can you really see 3 separate balloons? No, let's look at how they're all on top of each other. The black balloon is first. It's in front and you can see the whole thing. The red balloon is a little bit behind that, so you can't see the whole balloon. And the white one is behind that. So you can't see the whole balloon there either. So it's really important when you're working on your drawings is not to just think about, oh, what would 3 balloons look like, but what do these 3 balloons look like? And then I give them another shot at it. This helps them to realize how what they're drawing and what they're seeing is not always the same and how they really need to concentrate, even on simple shapes like balloons. Okay, this is a good one. I usually put this up and then before they even start, I say, stop. Now, let me ask you, what's the first shape that you're going to draw here? Most of them are going to say the wheels. Just raise your hand. Who is going to draw the wheels first? Okay, well, let me give you a hint. This is going to work a lot better instead of drawing the wheels if you draw the lines of the frame first. If you draw those lines of the frame first, it's going to be a lot easier for you to put the wheels in the right place and make them the right size. Sometimes it takes a little practice to figure out what lines and shapes you should put in first to make a really good drawing. So when I show the Pikachu, I ask how many of you have ever drawn Pikachu before? And a lot of them have. And a lot of them are good at drawing Pikachu. So this is where I talk about the fact that you can get really good at drawing something if you do it over and over and over again. The more you practice, the better you'll get at it. Does anyone in here have anything that they like to draw over and over again? A little doodle or a picture or your initials or something, and you sketch it all the time on all your books? Yeah, I bet you're really good at that now, and you can do it without even thinking. Well, it's just like playing music or playing sports. The more you practice something, the better you'll get. And if you do something like this Pikachu over and over again, it's going to come, it didn't come out perfect the first time, but it's going to come out better and better. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the whole shoe. Look at that, is pretty much a standard shoe shape. But if you look closer, you can see there's all sorts of lines going all sorts of different ways on this shoe. The shape of the shoe, then we can start looking at different lines and different details. You know that every tennis shoe is going to have basically the same shape, but these lines on the inside and all the shapes on the inside, these are going to be different depending on what brand of shoe it is. So that's where details can really make a difference. So if you want something to look very specific, you want to look at the very specific details. Okay, this one's a little bit trickier. Let's take a look and see what shapes you can find in there. Now you could go all the way around the outside and do an outside contour first, but I like to break something like this up into smaller shapes. You've got a nice little round head there, some triangle ears, and this shape is kind of a long rectangle with his little feet there, and then you can add on the back, and this little back leg, and then his tail. And you can see by breaking him up into different shapes, you can get the right size and shape of the whole dog by looking at the smaller parts. This Cupcake really has 2 main shapes. It's got a lot of lines going lots of different directions, but let's look at the 2 main shapes. You've got kind of a rectangle shape on the bottom, and then you've got a triangle shape on the top. You want to draw those 2 shapes first. Then you can put in all of your detail lines on the bottom shape. Then you can put all your detail lines on the top. So for the elephant, that blue line for the tail should not be in there. That should be in there last. But I'm already most of the way through the recording, so I'm not going back to fix it. So ignore the blue line. The first thing we're going to draw for the elephant is a big rectangle. An elephant is so big, it's like a great big box. Then once you've got him in a box, see how the rest of his body is sort of like a triangle. You've sort of got a triangle of elephant at the top and a triangle of space under the elephant at the bottom. After we've got the rectangle of the elephant in there, we can start adding the other big shapes, like his legs, or a triangle for his ear, that leg in, there, and then the smaller shapes, and that big long trunk, those big long tusks. It's easier to get the smaller shapes in if you've got the big outside basic shape right first. Now this is a picture of me. I suggest you put in a picture of you because, again, the kids really respond favorably to drawing things that they're interested in, that they think are fun. So pictures of you or other people at school, pictures of them, pictures of toys, characters, other things that they're interested in and familiar with are really going to motivate them to do the best they can with their drawing. Like Pokemon, the picture of me is something that I draw all the time, and I always draw it this way. I start with my oval head, then I put my shoulders in, then I put in my hair shape, then if I need to add any lines for clothes, I'll put that in, and then my glasses. Now sometimes I don't get all the way through. Sometimes I don't even get to the elephant, but this is a pretty good collection of images that gives us some practice with some different shapes and different pictures that appeal to them. So now I'm going to go through them again, this time without me talking, just in case you want to use them in class. The video on the right here is my gesture drawing video, which I do in week 1. Then I do this contour drawing in week 2, and then immediately after that, for the next couple of weeks, we draw pictures from photographs or from magazine pictures. Then we take a break, we do some other things that are not drawing, and then we come back and we do our still life. My recommendations for both the drawing from photographs and for the still life is make sure that you have subjects that 4th graders are going to be interested in drawing. Don't go for the classical pictures of fruit and flowers that the old masters did. Use toys and characters, objects from around the art room. Art supplies are a great thing to use. Do the things that they would be interested in buying or touching or seeing themselves. It really keeps them engaged in their drawing practice. I'm going to try to post my entire curriculum online in the next couple of years before I retire. So if you want to see it all, like and subscribe.